Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, a.k.a. the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. We've been just sitting in here listening to the intro over and over. Logan being tech guy today, little sketch on that side. But this week we have Ricky Lauren from the MMG crew and guest Dylan Smith. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
So you work at S2.
Yep.
And this is actually a rarity of a podcast that somebody's coming on that I don't really even know.
Yeah, so we just met for the first time today. So.
Yeah. So we met just before the podcast started, had dinner, then got rolling. And you know Ricky and Lauren before this, and we were actually talking that you were brought up on another podcast, and I just have a respect for people with like a crazy work ethic and that just mental drive. And I just saw it through that, and they were like, yeah, we need to have him on.
That's cool.
So that was just, I don't know, probably 3-4 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with the story of Dylan.
So I am 24. Like Dane said, I work for Supplement Superstores. Been working there for almost 6 years now, about 5.5 years. Grew up in Kansas City, and I've been here my whole life. So
cool. What got you into Supplement Superstore?
So funny enough, I'd actually went into the store. I was 18 at the time. I went to the Overland Park store, and they just had that one open. And a buddy of mine, we just left the Lifetime Fitness over there. We went in, we talked to Jeff and Kyle. Me and Jeff did not hit it off right immediately.
Really?
Yeah, funny enough, he came in and we were kind of talking, and I was used to going into, GNC, so I wasn't expecting anyone to like actually have knowledge, be able to help me. So I went in there just trying to find some pre-workout. Jeff was talking to me, and eventually Kyle comes out of the back, and he was like, "Hey, bro, you look pretty big." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And, then we started.
Thank you. Finally, somebody recognized it. Yeah. Over here didn't recognize it when I came in.
I was like, now we can talk since it's been acknowledged. But then we ended up talking. They told me they're opening a Shawnee location, and I was in college at the time. Or I think I just started college, and I went over to the Shawnee store, got started up with them, and then I've been there ever since. So,
what were you going to school for?
I wanted to study physics.
Really?
Yeah, I was always kind of a science nerd in high school, so I wanted to go off and study physics. And when I was eventually presented with the opportunity to work for S2, I was like, it sounds like a lot more fun helping people get in shape versus just sitting in the lab all day. So
I will be straightforward with you. A physics degree doesn't do a whole lot for you in today's world.
Yeah, I wanted to like move overseas and go work in some labs, and I was like, that's not. You get to like calc, and then you're like, never mind.
Yeah.
You're like, actually, this sucks.
Yeah.
I have a geology degree and a minor in physics.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that it just hangs on a wall.
Yeah,
doesn't do a whole lot at the old MMG office.
Well, scientist Dane.
Yeah. So the only reason that we have that in there is because I pay $141 a month for it, and the rate's too low on it to actually pay it off. So I'm just going to keep rolling that out, and then once it's paid off, that comes down. So,
so I wasn't in Kansas City. We moved here in 2019. Mm-hmm. We weren't there when S2 started. How far along were they when you first went in there?
They were right at 1 year because they opened up in December of 2016, and then I believe it was either late November, early December 2017. I went in.
So they were about to open location number 2.
Yeah, they were about to open location number 2, and I think within 2 to 3 weeks of number 2 opening, I went and started working for them. So I did like my first couple training shifts at the OP store, and then from there on out, it was at Shawnee.
So what did it look like launching into? Because now it's something so much bigger,
right?
What did it look like launching into it at that point?
At the time when I got started with them, I heard I was going to be certified in personal training, certified nutrition. I was like, that's sweet. I've always wanted to do that. I'm going to get cool discounts on supplements. I was just 18-year-old kid. I was like, I'll do this for part-time. And then after working with Jeff and Kyle, because that's what's kind of funny is I'm one of the few people left that actually work shifts with Jeff and Kyle. Jeff would be opening the store. I'd come in, an hour later. After just being around them and kind of hearing, their story of working in the Springfield stores, the St. Louis stores, and eventually getting their own, I was like, okay, if there's an opportunity to do that, I would much rather do that than, continue going to school. And I think within maybe a year and a half of working for him, I ended up dropping out of college and working for him full time. So
very cool.
And had you always been into fitness, like going through high school, middle school, stuff like that? Or
Yeah, I started. So funny enough, I started working out when I was like 8 or 9 years old. My brother had gotten a weight set for Christmas, I think when he was 12. So yeah, I would have been 9. And I wanted to start lifting with him. I was watching, my parents had competed in bodybuilding like 15 years prior. And they weren't as into it at the time, but I started seeing like some of their old photos, and I remember watching like YouTube videos of Ronnie Coleman, lifting crazy weights and stuff. And I was like, I think I want to do that. So that was kind of funny. I think that's part of how I got so strong, is I had no idea what strong was.
Yeah.
I had like my older brother who weighed 100 pounds more than me to go off of, and then videos of Ronnie Coleman. So I was like, all right, I've got
you're like, that's just what you do.
Yeah, I was like, I've got a long way to go. Yeah.
And you're squatting 800 pounds for reps.
Right.
You're like, I've seen nobody like in real life that does that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was kind of funny when I first went to, because I trained at Snap Fitness for, maybe a year after I got out of the parents' basement. And then I went to Lifetime Fitness, and that was the first gym where I actually like saw lots of people. And I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty strong compared to these people. Yeah. So
yeah, just slightly strong. Yeah, I watch your videos. We're friends on Instagram, and I think just strictly through Supplement Superstore and everything.
Yeah.
And let's go over just some of the weight that you lift on just your basic lifts, because I think people listening need to know actually what strong is.
Well, the other thing is that's going to be all the comments down below is them asking, so we might as well get in front of it.
Yeah. So what do you bench now on?
520 is my best.
520 best?
I got that about a month and a half ago.
Okay. Squat?
722 is my best. And then I broke my leg on 685 like maybe 3 weeks ago.
See, that's something we're going to have to come back to on that.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that one. We're going back to it.
Deadlift?
650.
Yeah. Am I missing any other ones?
He bench presses the 200-pound dumbbells.
How many reps?
7. I got 7 up at Liberty Foundation. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I think I watched you do it. You were the first one to hit him, and I was like, damn, he made that look easy. And I knew our barbell bench was at least like in the same ballpark. And I got maybe 2.5. It's so different.
Yeah. No, it's super.
I got 0. A big fat 0.
I would assume they're just collecting dust, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did them like 2 nights ago. I did them, and it was funny. I had to have like people like carry them to me and put them on my legs so I couldn't actually like walk over with them.
I was going to say, I think it's just impressive somebody picks them up and gets to the bench.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's a dangerous situation.
That's a feat in itself.
The first time I tried to do like heavy dumbbells, it was the 175s there.
Yeah,
and I was, for whatever reason, I was like, I'll just do it myself. And I got one in front of my leg. I literally just couldn't even, I was standing. I couldn't even get the other one in front of my leg to sit down.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
I've been there. You're stuck in the gym, like just trying to swing it 3 or 4 times in a row.
You haven't even done a rep yet. You're just trying to get in position.
Yeah. Then there's that guy over there with the 15s. Like, what the fuck?
Yes. I don't know. Okay, what else? Is there any other lifts that you...
I feel like that's all the important ones.
Your basics, yeah.
You can rep out some shoulder press.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hit 315 on overhead press the other day. That was pretty good.
Standing or seated?
Standing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Standing's always been a tough one for me.
Yeah.
A lot of core in that.
Yeah.
I'm going to chalk that up as a loss for me on that. I just wanted to get through that just so. I always tell people just gotta get a couple inches shorter. It helps out a lot.
That's true.
Yeah. Plus 50 pounds on everything.
Yeah. I just got a good shot to the self-esteem, because then you bring up the 200-pound dumbbells and Ricky's like, well, yeah, when I was doing them, like, I just didn't do it.
I thought everybody just does.
Lauren doing it.
I've had to deadlift that thing off the ground to move it, and that was like the one.
Lauren, we're together here. Neither one of us touched the 200-pound dumbbell.
Well, she touched it.
Oh yeah, I've moved them multiple times, and when we had to unwrap them from all the packaging, that was not fun.
I'm back by myself.
Because it's like we had a pile of these dumbbells, and it's like, oh, it's just a pile of dumbbells, but then you had to walk one at a time from this area to this area, because you can't like just pick 2 of them up.
I'm not 100% sure we didn't roll them.
Well, I started picking
might have
them
rolled
up.
the 2s.
I think you were getting them out of the cargo thing, and I was unwrapping them and then moving, and then I was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not lifting anymore. I'm going to screw up my back.
Fair. So you get into fitness, at a very early age, and then you make a career out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I had it was pretty much just lifting up until I was like 12 or just turned 13. I always wanted to lose weight. I was kind of a heavier set kid growing up. Never super overweight, but I definitely wasn't like lean. I didn't have abs, anything like that. So I downloaded my Fitness Pal. I was in like 7th or 8th grade. Started tracking macros, and like I was that weird kid at school. I was bringing meal preps to school. I stopped eating what my parents were cooking for like dinner.
Was your brother Ricky?
So I also think I downloaded MyFitnessPal. It was 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
That's when I stopped drinking pop.
Yeah,
I didn't bring meal prep to school, but I wish I did.
You ate salad bar every day.
I did do that.
Yeah, I did a lot of that.
That's how I'm going to get jacked. I'm going to eat salads.
Yeah. And that was back when MyFitnessPal, you had to like actually enter how many calories were in foods.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The database had like 12 things in it when, you know.
See, I wish I would have had maybe like a little harder like start, because I ate whatever I wanted at that point, and I was like, senior year I was like 210, had a 6-pack, and I was like super strong. I was like, and I couldn't eat enough food.
Mm-hmm.
Like there wasn't a way that it was possible for me to get fat.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the metabolism slowed down and it
That's I always tell people, you know, because I talk to people all day long who are like, I don't know where this 50 pounds came from. I'm kind of glad I got it. You know, I was not in great shape growing up because I had an awareness of it from a very young age. So there was never this point where I was like, what happened to my metabolism?
Which the weird thing was, like, I wasn't in good shape until like it was probably like sophomore, junior year of high school. I was kind of shaped like a pear for a long time. And then it was like all of a sudden it just like kind of shifted.
Yeah.
And it was, I got like 4 or 5 inches taller. And then it was like, then all of a sudden I started lifting. I started going the other way.
Yeah. My weight shifted. I just never got any taller. Yeah.
Girls actually started talking to me. I was like, whoa, this is new. But so you started lifting. Anything crazy happened in high school lifting, anything like that?
Nothing too crazy. You know, at the time I just did, there was high school powerlifting meets. They were kind of weird. They did bench press, squat, and hang clean, which I was pretty good at those. I won those all throughout high school.
What school were you at?
Mill Valley. It's over in Shawnee, Kansas.
I don't think we would have ever.
No, I think Baser was the only.
Yeah. Baser had like the big meet every
my
year.
gosh.
Dude.
We went.
Did you go to
Did you guys
Baser?
go to?
Yeah. Well, so me and one of my friends were like the only 2 people that from my high school. That
So we
did it.
probably were there
Yeah.
at that powerlifting meet at the same time.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
totally.
Yeah. Because I did that. What would have been like 2012 through 2016 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, we
That's
were there.
awesome.
That's funny. Yeah.
Baser always had a stacked team,
Yeah.
Insane.
and they had way more kids than everybody
Yeah.
by far.
It was kind of funny from Mill Valley, because Baser we would send like maybe like 8 or 10 kids to, but we would always drive really far out west to a lot of the smaller like 1A, 2A schools.
Oh yeah.
And it's me and my friend Blaine, and he was really strong too. So we'd always both win our weight classes and everything. And that was always the joke, is if we could place as a team, we thought we did really well that meet, you know, because we had 2 guys, you know, but we'd get enough golds to place somehow.
Yep.
So Carney was huge into powerlifting. I did powerlifting my senior year.
Nice.
And we took a full charter bus down to nationals in Oklahoma.
Damn.
And there was like, I think it was probably at least 30 guys from our school that went. But all the football players were required to do powerlifting on off season.
Yeah.
And then it's like everyone figured out they were pretty good at that. They trained in football all the time.
What weight class would you have been? I guess it would have been in 15.
I want to say
14?
I was in like the 181 weight class my freshman and sophomore year, and then I believe I went up to 198.
So
was
he
the class
was
up.
one above you
Okay.
I was at 198.
because you dropped, didn't you? So that you
I think
didn't
that was
have
for
to,
state.
so that you didn't have to lift against that one kid.
Who was? I'm not gonna remember his name. I'll think of it later. But
Who is that kid?
I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
It is kind of funny. I remember in 8th grade, because my brother had been doing them.
Yeah.
He was 3 years older than me. I snuck into a meet as an 8th grader and said I was a freshman. And
For real?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
I didn't win, but I won a couple lifts. I thought
That's
funny.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Because I could only do that meet 3 times in high school. 'Cause
Yeah.
Senior year, they were going to be like, hey, why are you here for a 5th time? I was like,
I don't know.
I failed a grade. My B bad.
There you
Junior
go.
year is hard.
yeah.
The wild thing about high school powerlifting was like every Saturday there's just a meet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's like
yeah.
no peaking involved. Really,
No,
at
you're
least for us.
maxing out like 6 consecutive weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And then, somehow not getting injured.
Yeah.
So,
That's pretty crazy about
Yeah.
how just whacked that was.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
I look at that. If I try to do that this Saturday, I'm going to the hospital on Saturday night.
Yeah.
yeah.
So have you done any powerlifting meets since high school?
I did when I was 19. That was like my first official meet. I did that one over at like Strong Barbell Club when it was inside of OGKC. That one I did really well at, a total 18 something, some change.
Damn.
The meet after that was at want to say it's Brave Enough CrossFit up there in North KC. That one, I took second place to Cade Proctor. I was pretty mad after that one. I was like, oh, I should have trained harder. I had gotten injured going into it, so I didn't like feel great about the meet. But then Cade just smoked me.
You guys were the same weight class?
No, he was a few weight classes up.
Okay.
Like, I won my weight class, but then he beat me in the overall.
Okay.
And I haven't competed since then. I was supposed to compete in 5 weeks, but I'm not planning on doing that. Yeah, I'll probably have like 1 week of squatting going into that. So
yeah,
probably not planning on it.
Maybe let the leg heal.
yeah. No, it was funny because I had like just been used to. I think I won every single meet except for like one meet my freshman year, so I never lost. And then Cade came out there and just smacked me, and I was like, "What the heck, kid? Come on, man!"
Cade's a unit, though.
Yeah, Cade's a freak.
Gosh.
Yeah. He's doing bodybuilding now. He looks crazy. Yeah.
I must not follow him because
no, if you look at his Instagram pictures, because he's just been huge forever.
Yeah.
He's cut now. And he looks like a freak. So
I remember seeing what he looked like the last time he did bodybuilding. It looked insane.
Yeah.
And then he obviously put a lot of mass on when he's
Yeah. And he's not that cut yet, but he's got it's got to be like 40 pounds more lean mass on him. It's going to be pretty wild. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So I do want to come back to the pinned spot that we had with the broken leg.
Yeah.
So when did that happen?
That was almost 3 weeks ago. Yeah, it was a Sunday night. I was squatting, and it was kind of funny. So my leg had been hurting really bad for like 4 or 5 weeks, and I thought it was my calf. Like I felt like something was maybe like a small tear in my calf or a small strain, but I was like, it'll be fine. It'll heal up. It was feeling better. I'd feel terrible after I'd squatted, then feel a little bit better. And then I was squatting. I had 685 on the bar, which that was the heaviest squat of this prep. But I felt really good. I think I had been up to like maybe 645 a couple weeks earlier, and that moved really well. And then underacted the weight, and right when I get to the bottom, like when I was in the hole, as soon as I came up, I heard this loud crack. It's kind of gross. You can almost hear it on the video. And immediately dumped the weight off, and I felt nothing. It was like instantly I was in shock. But I heard that crack, and my first thought was like, well, that's going to be a surgery, 12 weeks, because I didn't know what if it was a tendon, a ligament, whatnot. And I drove down. So it's kind of funny. I didn't want to admit to myself I was injured. So I hobbled out of Flex Fitness. I drove down to the Genesis on Ward Parkway. And it was kind of funny. I saw a guy at the gym that we had just hired the day before, and he's like, dude, are you okay? Cause it took me probably, 10 minutes to get from the front door back to the locker room. I went and sat in the sauna. That didn't help. I went and sat in the hot tub. And then by the time I got out of the hot tub, I could hardly walk. So I was like, all right, I better go to the hospital.
So injure yourself at one gym. Great idea. I should go get in the car.
Yeah.
Go to another gym.
Yeah. I was like, maybe the sauna will fix whatever's,
just kind of massage it out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go to the hospital. What did they tell you there?
Well, so it's kind of funny. I went to Shawnee Mission Medical, and there was like a 4-hour wait at the ER. And finding a new ER is really weird because for liability reasons, they can't tell you the wait time at any of the ERs, because if you're having a heart attack or something like that, they don't want to be responsible for giving you the wrong time. So finally we got someone to, tell us, hey, go here. And I ended up at Menorah. They didn't give me crutches for like the first hour I was there. So I had to slowly walk back to the room, and I was dying at this point. And then they x-rayed it. They confirmed the fracture. I went to an orthopedic doctor the next morning. They double confirmed the fracture. And then I was actually super shocked because I was expecting him to say, hey, you're 8 weeks on cast. And he was basically just like, well, just use some crutches till it doesn't hurt anymore, and then we'll scan it again in 4 or 5 weeks. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah,
that sounds like a doctor straight out of the 80s.
Yeah.
I love it.
The funniest thing was he was like, because I've had a couple knee surgeries in the past. He had no concern for the fracture. He's like, you probably shouldn't be doing all that heavy lifting with your knees, though. I was like, oh, okay, doc, thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
So that happens, and then what do you do on Wednesday?
So I think it was actually Tuesday night.
Oh,
yeah, this was Sunday night. Monday, got up, just went to that point, went to work. And then Tuesday, what had actually happened was I made a post on Instagram that I had broken my leg, just me bench pressing, with my leg in a brace. And I kept getting all these comments. I had a bunch of people reaching out to me. They're, telling me they were sorry. They're, oh, dude, I'm so sorry to hear this, and they were all being super, super nice. But I hate that feeling of other people pitying me. So I was like, I need to go do something hard. And I was sitting in the parking lot of Quick Trip right over by my apartment. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I just had this thought of well, I'm going to do something. And I was just like, what better thing to do than to go do a half marathon? And originally I'd planned on doing a full marathon, but I had to work the next morning. So I ran out of time. It took me 7 hours to do the half. I don't know why, but I was expecting, I could probably hold an 18, 20 minute pace. This will be fine. And then it was more 35, 40 minute pace is pretty slow. But yeah, it was a good time. I went home. I wrapped up my crutches a little bit because, I didn't have any padding on them. I drove out to, I can't remember, some high school in Overland Park. I just looked up like tracks and just went out there and started crutching. And it was kind of funny because for my first, the first lap I got into it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought, because that was the farthest distance I'd gone. But then a dude showed up and he started running. And I was kind of like, well, it's kind of funny. And I just kept going. He kept looking at me. And it was like, you could tell he was like, what is this dude doing out here?
Dude's a psychopath.
Yeah. So like for my first, I think for the first 2 miles, like I was out there jogging, which really helped me through. But then by the time he left, it was pitch black. And then it was just, another 5.5 hours of slowly crutching around. And I posted about this around like mile 5, because my hands had started, they got these terrible blisters on them. They started, hurting really bad. And my armpits had started bleeding. Around mile 5, it just stopped hurting. You know what I mean? I think my body was just like, well, this is happening, so it kind of went numb. And from that point, I started picking up the pace quite a bit, but I was getting real tired around mile 10. So I did a DoorDash order, and IHOP's like the only thing you can order, because I think it was almost 3 a.m. at that time. I ordered IHOP as like hash browns, sausage, whatever. And the dude shows up and he's calling me. He's like, hey man, I can't find you. I was like, hey, can you walk that up to the track? I'm up here on the track. I was like, I'm on crutches, so I can't really come down to you. And he was like, yeah.
So why are you at the track, bro?
Is dude doing drugs at the track?
It was super funny. I remember his name was, it was Cheng Dong. He was super nice guy, but he comes up there and he was so concerned. He's like, dude, why are you here? And I was like, oh, I'm doing a half marathon. I just needed some fuel. And he was super confused, and he left me my bag, and I sat down and ate my stuff. And that was the worst part of it, though, is I sat down for 10-15 minutes.
Dude, and all
starting back up, because I could like feel everything hurting again. The last 3 miles or so were pretty terrible.
Yep. So I ran a half marathon. What was that, a month and a half ago?
Yeah.
And first time out of anything I've ever done that it was like I felt like my body failed me.
Yeah.
It was, I definitely am not conditioned to be out running anywhere. But it's just, I've always I came off the couch like 4 years ago, so that was a while ago. And I raced 5K or whatever against my brother's girlfriend. And I pretty much told her, I was like, I'll come out and smoke you. She's like, you never run. I go, it's like the one in Kearney is 4.2 miles. It was on the Kearney trail. I go, I can push myself for 4 miles. Like, in my head farther than most people. Yeah. I go, I don't care what I weigh. I'll go out and I'll beat you. Yeah. I went out and I smoked during that. Yeah. So I was telling her the same thing on this half marathon. I was like, my head, I'm dialed in here. Yeah. I'm going to go out there. I go out in like the first 3 miles. I'm like cruising. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm running like an 8:30 pace. Yeah. And I'm like, I got this. And then all of a sudden my body just like back pain like I've never felt before. It literally just like the middle section was so terrible. And then mile 10 comes around. I am bone dry of sweat. I have nothing left in me. I'm trying to eat these gummies thinking it's going to make me feel better. And then they're just like, I'm like, my mouth is so dry. I'm like, I'm going to choke on this. Yeah. My calves are cramping. I'm like, and I finish it. And like the second I stopped, my body was like done for the day. Yeah. I was trying to eat a bagel afterwards, and I felt like I was going to throw up. But I couldn't even eat a half a bagel. Yeah. I couldn't drink water. And it's, I do that, and I'm like, of course, in my head, I'm like, I fucking failed. She smoked me, like the whole thing. And it was just a fight between myself and I that whole second half. Yeah. And then you post a deal about doing a half marathon on crutches. I'm like, I am a bitch. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? I'm like sitting there, I'm like, and like, I literally just posted about my half marathon, like probably this last week. Because I thought for a long time I was never even going to post about it. Yeah. I was just like, that's the first thing I feel like I failed at. Everyone's like, you did it. You literally just came off the couch and ran 13 miles. Yeah. I was like, yeah, but I didn't actually accomplish what I was out to do. Like, people are like, I didn't think you were going to finish. I was like, I had no question I was going to finish. Mm-hmm. I just didn't finish the way I wanted to. Right. And then it's like, I can't imagine what that mind that you versus you out there at that track at 3:00 in the morning without a single person watching. Yeah.
I would assume it's pitch black.
Yeah. 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 It was,
maybe some moonlight.
There's some moonlight. Yeah. Yeah. And like you could kind of see a little bit of light just because the neighborhood's around and whatnot. But it got pretty weird out there, because I just go in and no one knew I was doing it. I didn't tell when I was going out there. So it was, I don't know. Cause I was kind of just like talking to myself. I was, not so nicely every time I was thinking about stopping. I was like, you little pussy, get up there, start going. But I think it was around like maybe like midnight or just before 1 a.m., I cranked on some David Goggins, like the Joe
That's
Rogan David Goggins podcast. And I was like, all right, I'm good to go. Yeah.
I started listening. When I ran that half marathon, I put my headphones on. I'm like, I'm going to listen to music, blah, blah, blah. And literally about mile 4, my body's like breaking down. I get out my phone and I'm like, I know I have the Audible of his new book. Never finished it. I literally clicked on it. I listened to his book the rest of the way through. I come in, they're like, what are you listening to? I was like, I was listening to David Goggins' book.
Yeah.
The whole second half, I was like, I wasn't stopping.
Yeah.
But that's a hard fight to have in your own head. And on top of it, without somebody, like with no one watching.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that's kind of the reason why I wanted to do it. Cause it wasn't like I went out and I wanted to do something hard, but it's more so, it's just like, it was really cool for me to just like see what your brain does, you know, when you're like, you know, you get 4 laps in and you're like, all right, my arms are hurting. And you're like, I only have 48 laps left to go. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of just, it takes your mind to an interesting place. And it was super funny because like my mom the next day, she saw my Instagram post and she was like, you need to come stay with, you know, me and your dad. She was trying to get me to go drive over there. And she was like, something's wrong with you. And I was like, oh no, Mom, like I'm actually doing fantastic. And it's funny because all the people I talk to on a daily basis, they're like, oh, that's Dylan. Yeah, that makes sense. You know,
wasn't surprised.
Yeah, my mom was like, something bad. Yeah,
So my question is, the guy that was running around the track, did he ever say anything to you?
No, and it was kind of funny. I thought he was going to a few times because he was running the straights and then he'd walk the curves.
Oh, yeah.
A few times he passed me on the curves and he would only be going, you know, barely faster than me. So we'd kind of like glance at each other. But he just looked really confused.
He probably thought you were crazy.
Yeah,
and didn't really want to get into it.
I would be really confused if I was there.
Well, and it was almost like he was like, well, you know, this guy looks like he'll be okay. Cause like he wasn't, you know, he wasn't in great shape. And, you know, I'm out there, I'm all like jacked up, on my crutches going. And he's probably like, yeah, he'll be fine. Yeah. He'll be all right. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Do you feel like your whole life you've always had like that drive to, like, was there anything specific that happened that kind of like changed your mindset on that type of drive?
I mean, to be honest, like growing up, I was always the complete opposite. Like I always worked really, really hard in the weight room, you know, and like working out and whatnot. But it was almost just because I was good at it. Like I enjoyed it because I was good at it. And I was that dude in school that like, I never studied for a test. You know, I never took anything seriously. I'd always just show up and do pretty well on all my stuff. So I had really like, up until maybe about 3 years ago, I was always kind of that person that would just like quit things when they got very, very difficult. Yeah. And then we talked about it a little bit earlier, but as you guys know, you know, I've been sober for almost 3 years now. I had a pretty serious just amphetamine addiction for about 5 years, and it was really when I got off all that stuff. You know, I went through the rehab program, and probably the best part of that whole thing was before I even got into the rehab program. There was like a 3-week period where I was just detoxing. So I was just laying in my apartment, you know, like off and on sleeping for 3 weeks. You know, like after you get off amphetamines, you don't have any motivation. You don't have any dopamine. You know, it's weird. Like you'd lay in bed for, I don't know, like 14 hours straight until like you had to get up because it felt like, you know, like something was stabbing you. Like you would feel like you had to pee, and then you'd lay in bed for another 9 hours until like you actually had to get up to go pee. But that was some of the best time in my life, you know, not from how I felt standpoint, but it just really allowed me to like sit back and look at my life and like look at how I was, you know. And I think that was like the hardest part about the whole thing, was just admitting that I was like the absolute opposite of the person that I wanted to be, you know. Because if I was someone who, if you had asked back then, you know, like if someone should be hardworking, like, oh yeah, of course you shouldn't quit, you know, keep going, blah, blah, blah. But I was the exact opposite of that at the time. So it's kind of cool just having that minute to step back, like take a look at my life and be like, all right, well, Dylan, you suck. You know, you're doing the opposite of everything you're saying you want to do. So that's kind of, definitely a moment that kind of turned all that around for me. Yeah. So.
And I think going through something like that is almost like you probably experience a whole different place in your head.
Yeah.
During that.
For sure. Yeah, and that was you mean like during the addiction or getting off?
Like getting off. And I think a lot of times people experience different places in their head that, like, you going out and doing that 13 miles at 3 a.m. in the morning, there's a lot of people that will never even know what that headspace looks like in their lifetime.
Yeah.
That like they don't that's what, like, when I do a lot of things, I enjoy pushing myself. I go do those things, and it's almost like where most people look at it as something that's miserable. Like you get done and you're like, just let me enjoy it. Like, like I like that spot.
Yeah.
Like I think it builds confidence in people. It builds like a whole different level of what you feel is capable of happening in life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just always are kind of sold short of that. And like, I haven't went through something like that. I guarantee you that cycle of being just laying there every day, I don't even know where that how crazy is that headspace?
Man, it's kind of wild because your brain's just jacked up. You know what I mean? It was the weirdest part about the whole thing is I remember it being extremely peaceful, if that makes sense. Like I went, because I mean, for 5 years, the addiction really got bad the last like year and a half to 2 years of it. It was like something that, I was taking, 3, 4, 5 pills a day, the first couple years of it. And then the last about 2 years before I quit, it started getting pretty bad. And then I moved in with a girl about a year before it was all over. We broke up. So then I was just living by myself after that. When I was living by myself, the last like 8 months of it's when I got terrible because there was like there's no one to check in on me. There's no one to do anything. So I would just come home, stay up all night, do more drugs, go out all night. I got to the point where I was staying up, 2, 3, very rarely 4 days in a row. You kind of just hit like a pass out point. But going through all that and just having my brain in that constant, like just cycle of like super adrenaline, super dopamine, all that stuff, it felt super, super peaceful just to be like, like, what I mean? Even though I felt like shit, like I was like, I feel horrible, I don't know that I've ever been like, everyone's felt feelings of depression at times in their life. What I mean? Like, I think that's a kind of a normal thing, but that was the only like, period in my life where like, I almost just felt like completely depressed. I felt horrible. But it felt peaceful. You know what I mean? It was like the first time, because the entire time I was addicted to drugs. It's kind of funny. I think I had tried to tell people that it was going on, but I was so scared for anyone to find out. It was like, definitely like an anxiety driven thing, like, where I just really didn't want to tell anyone what was going on. I didn't want to get caught doing that. It was really nice just being like, oh, well, now people know, I pretty quickly, like as soon as I got off, I hit this, my brain's always been pretty logical. And I hit this point where I was like, well, if I start doing this again, I'm going to die, because there was enough times where I just binged really, really hard on pills and, felt like I was having heart attacks, that type of thing. I don't know if I ever actually had a heart attack or anything, but there was a couple times I was pretty convinced. I was like, yep, this is it. I'm dying, and it's just like knowing that I wasn't there anymore. I had no idea what laid ahead, but I was like, well, at least I'm not going to have to feel like that anymore, So it's kind of funny. Yeah. Cause that's like going through the rehab program and whatnot, you hear people talking all the time about like, oh, this triggered me, like this really made me want to use blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of weird when you're in these programs because it's, it's like Hank over here who's been addicted to meth for 40 years. And then you've got Joe who doesn't want to be here. He just happened to get a DUI and the court ordered him to be here. So you hear super like very, very different stories. But everyone's always talking about like these cravings and things that like made him like want to get back on. And I was like, you guys are crazy. I was like, this is so nice to just finally be off this stuff. And obviously there's like, you have like, I don't know, like you kind of want to, you want to use them for a while, whatnot. But it's like, I was so set on, yep, I'm just going to die if I do this again, because throughout the 5 years I was addicted, there was multiple times where I'd quit for like 2 weeks or I'd quit for like a month. And every single time when I would get back on pills or I'd go buy more, I would start taking them at like just a even crazier rate than before, So like I hit this point, I was like, well, I'd rather not die. I like being alive, so I'm just not going to do that anymore. So,
yeah. And that's, once again, I haven't fought that fight before, but I think that just from, knowing you today, you're a very strong-headed person. Like somebody that's weak-minded isn't going to push themselves through what you did on their crutches.
Sure.
So it's like, I think there are a lot of people out there that just, they don't have the confidence and it ends up becoming just a weak mindset.
Yeah.
When you're telling yourself you can't do things all the time, I think your mind just gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yeah.
And it's like, tell yourself you can do it and go fight it. Are you going to win every single time? No. But it's like, those are fights that you still have to go fight.
Yeah.
And it's like, put your brain after them, figure it out. And it's like, the more of those things that you conquer, the more things that like, so many people will doubt you in doing things. But then like in your head, you're like the only one that you're like, there's not an outcome that this doesn't work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, and that's where I think just that strong mindset through that process, you're probably like, this is what I told myself. Like, I don't know why these people are struggling with this so much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And you're like, I'm good with it. Like I've made peace with it in my head. Like I have this weight off of my shoulders now.
Yeah.
Like, how do I move forward?
Right.
And I think that's also just when people have a vision of moving forward in life and anything, like if you don't have that vision, then it's always pretty hard to be motivated.
Yeah.
To have that motivation level.
For sure.
And like, even in work that you're like, yeah, I want to be the next guy that has a store. Like,
yeah.
So you have that vision already that's built. That's what Supplement Superstore is built off of.
Yeah.
There's a much grander vision of all of it. Like, you guys just got done doing that concert. What was it?
Summer Smash. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like watching that. I'm like, that's sick.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Maybe one day we'll have an MMG Summer Smash.
There you go.
That'd be cool.
But it's like, you watch that thing I mean, the whole company, like everything, it's a vision. It's a.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's definitely one of those things you have to kind of be able to look in the future, especially like working for a store like, S2. Cause I remember, like I said, I was 18. I was like living at home. I was going to community college at the time. And I'm like, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to drop out of college, move out, and I'm going to go work for the Supplement store. And trust me, I'm going to end up with my own stores one day.
How'd that conversation go?
I've always been pretty strong-headed, so it's kind of one of those things where they're like, well, okay, you know what I mean? Like, there was definitely a lot of like, have you thought through, have you done? And I was like, yes, I've thought through it all. My 18-year-old mind is very put together. I'm ready for this.
I know exactly how my future's going to end up.
Yep.
Thank you, though.
Yeah, well, and then that was the thing is that's the part that I had. I'd say I'm very, very lucky to have worked directly for Jeff and Kyle, because I was working for two guys that were like, "Hey, dude, we just told all of our families 10 years ago that we were going to do this thing and it was going to work out and we're going to get our own store. Now we've got two of them." And I was like, "All right, so it works." You know what I mean? Like it just made sense, early on. So,
what has it been like working at Supplement Superstores over the years, as far as it goes to your own personal development? Because I know that's from the outside looking in, it seems like that's something they really focus on.
Yeah, it's been huge for me. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely been like a lot of personal development that's either directly or indirectly tied to S2. And it's one of those things it's really tough for me to have perspective on, because I've been doing it since I was 18. You know what I mean? Like, it's always interesting for me when I hire someone on that's worked in other industries, and hearing about like what their life is like at work and like the people that they're around. You know what I mean? I'm surrounded by people all the time who are like, "Oh, you crushed a marathon? Cool, dude. Like, what are you doing next?" You know what I mean? But it's just not like that at most places. You know what I mean? And that's where, I was exposed to a lot of stuff like 75 hard. That was something that really helped me. I did 75 hard like 3 times in a row. And again, that was very, very good for me mentally. I got to the point where I was like, I need to like not do this permanently. Like, eventually it starts to not be a great thing for you, I think. But, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard for me to have perspective on, because, as far as I know, I'm like, oh, it's been going great. All these people are, here. We're all thinking the same way and that type of thing. But it's hard because I don't have a lot to compare that to. You know what I mean? Besides working in a gym when I was 16 and, working at Johnny's Tavern, it's like, well, yeah, no one at Johnny's Tavern really wanted much out of their life. But ever since then, everyone that I've been around has. So,
which I think also something that they do that is really cool is, because other people will have stores, they focus on building leaders all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like you're getting that all the time. That I truly like. I know Jeff and Kyle, and they truly are building something different. And that starts at the very top with Andy,
right,
all the way down. That it's like he has built leaders under him. And this is a conversation I have with business owners all the time that I normally have a huge disagreement with. A lot of business owners don't like leaders in their company. That in a smaller scale, they're fearful of it.
Yeah.
They're fearful of somebody coming in and being better than them, or executing something in a different way that might be more productive in an aspect.
Yeah.
But it's like they truly want the best for all you guys, because if they make you the best leader possible when you have that store, then it makes it to where they can open more.
Right. Yeah.
Where if they just try to hold you at the bottom all the time, then it's like when that store opportunity comes and like you're not there.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that he can go run a group of people.
Yeah.
But like the proof's in the pudding already when you get there.
Right. Yeah. No, that's crazy to me hearing about that, because like I just in conversations I have with people outside the company, you hear those things, where they're like, "Oh, my boss so and so, blah blah blah," and I'm just like, that's wild. Because for me, it just made sense ever since I've like known anything about business. Everything I know about business was basically learned from working at S2 and being around Jeff, Kyle, and it's like, okay, I need to, in order for me to be useful, I need to be able to teach people how to do what I do so I can stop doing what I do and go do something else. You know what I mean? So like for me, it's just like, well, very naturally, I want, my employees, I want my assistant manager, I want them to take my job. So I need them to be as good or better than me.
Yeah.
Which I feel 99% of companies don't operate that way.
Yeah. Which is crazy to me, like when on paper, it makes sense.
Yeah. And when like I look at things, like it's always made sense to me that way, but that's also when you're operating on a full level of scale all the time. And most businesses don't operate on a continuous scale level. They operate as like, hey, this is where comfortable's at. I'm going to try to reach this area. Then this is where we're going to hang out.
Yeah.
I only have to go into work like 3 days, 4 days a week. And then these people do this, these people do this. And then I just have to make sure I have somebody kind of backed up in case this person quits. And then I'll have to go back in for a little while until that person gets like S2 and First Form don't run that way. It is always a upscale.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's been pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but, I've been able to really believe in, the vision that Jeff and Kyle have laid out for us. It's because never once in my life have I ever been like, oh, it looks like they're, enjoying themselves and wanting to like sit back and relax a little bit. They're constantly, it's always like, oh, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing, I've never once had this sense of like, oh, they're ready to slow down and kind of chill out,
Yeah, which I don't think that comes from those guys, which party foul. I'm gonna have to get a napkin over there. That's not those guys. And we talk about all the time that happiness is found in progression. And the second you stop chasing it is the second that I feel like you don't feel fulfilled in work.
Yeah.
And I don't care what money level you're at. I think that's the first one that's happened in here.
I think it is.
I'm bad luck.
I'm only a beer and a half in.
Oh man.
Put me to bed.
Oh my gosh.
So what do you see your future like in S2?
My goal since I've started has been to get my own store. So that's really the future. That's the next step for me. And it's kind of tough because I've always been that person. I'm trying to think like 5, 10, 15 years down the road what I want to be doing. And it's like right now my only focus is just, doing as good of a job as I can in the position I'm in. So that when that opportunity comes, and I'm able to get my own store, I'm ready to do that. But, I'd like to open a lot more than one store, but that's right now it's kind of the only focus. Just, hey, get that first one. And then from there, we can worry about that when the time comes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that store will be around here? Do you think that those stores are located elsewhere?
Well, so I would like to move to a different market and go, open a market somewhere else. But to be honest, really have no idea where that's going to be. That's all stuff that really it's, up to our leadership and, I trust that they're going to put me in the best spot possible when the time comes. So I'm kind of just, sitting back and doing, like I said, doing as good as I can for now.
What do you see? Do you have any like personal goals of your own, like in a personal level?
Like with like the amount of stores I want to own or anything like that? Or
no, just like in your personal life and things like that outside of business. Like I know we're really bad about getting tied up in business all the time.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And this is something that we're like, I've had to bring to the forefront that I'm working on is I am very fortunate for the people that are around me that at Moss Marketing Group, we eat, sleep, breathe this thing.
Yeah.
But it makes it to where a lot of times we lose track of everything else in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's something I don't think about often. I get kind of like hyper fixated on like, all right, I need to make this work. And then I'll worry about all that other stuff. But, outside of, business and getting my own store and that type of thing, it's really like to get married someday. I'd like to have kids. I've been really getting interested in like ultra marathons, that type of stuff. So I think somewhere down the road, I'd like to do like one of those 50 miles, the 100-mile races. Eventually something crazy, like that's pretty crazy to begin with, but you know what I mean? Like some of those big, like the 240-mile one out in Moab. But
there's a 240-mile race.
Yeah. It's like, I believe it's called the Moab 240. And it's wild. You go out there and you're just running for like 2 or 3 or 4 days straight. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure there's this girl named Courtney. God, I can't think of her last name, but I want to say she has like the record on it or something. Like, I don't know. I just watched a documentary on this girl and she's like the best ultra runner of all time. And she goes out there and it's kind of funny because she's not like, everyone's always like, oh, what drives you to do this? She's like, I just like running. It's really good time.
It's my passion.
Yeah. But like she was on the Rogan podcast, and she's talking about like, she's like, yeah, I'll start hallucinating and like there'll be like little bunnies running with me, because when you're up for 72 hours running, I can't imagine what that feels like. But
my next thing I want to conquer is a triathlon.
Yeah. You want to do like full Ironman length?
No, like the triathlon's what it's a half marathon. It's a mile swim. Yeah, I think it's 26 miles bike.
I'm not sure.
Is that right?
I think the bike, I want to say the bike's like, because that'd be like a half.
So I think it's a full marathon on a bike, which I don't think I don't think that'd be that hard.
I know that. So the full one's like 140 miles. You got the half marathon. You got a full marathon.
Yeah.
You get the 2 mile swim, and that's like it's 100 something on the bike, like 120. Yeah. So I
How
think
long is it?
I'm pretty sure you're looking at like 55 for your half.
Oh,
You're like, it's
Well,
fine. Just
yeah.
an extra 30 miles.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The bike's probably the least of my concern of all of it. Like I grew up racing motorcycles. I've been on a bicycle my whole entire life. Like I've always enjoyed cardio on a bike.
Yeah.
Like running, I hate running.
Yeah.
Like so that's definitely the hardest part. Like I enjoy swimming. So that's where I need to lose some weight and get definitely better shape. My goal is next year to go out and try to do a triathlon.
Yeah. That's kind of you actually have to know how to swim for those. You can't just like hop into them and hope for the best.
I definitely know how to swim. I used to go up and like a lot of my training actually probably like 5 years ago, all my cardio I did swimming. Like I grew up, I had a pool at my house and like I'd swim in the pool. And then there's like, I swam when Norterra opened. I'd go up and I'd like swim laps there and it was just like table, bro. Ricky's drinking water and he's dropping shit. But I enjoy cardio that way. Like probably the worst form of cardio on the planet to me is running.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know how to swim just enough to keep myself from drowning, so that would like never be.
Yeah, I can like make it from one side of the pool to the
Yeah.
other.
That's
but
about it.
That's about yeah. I'm not swimming fast.
No, I'm not even treading water.
No.
I have to be like going somewhere, and then I'm kind of like a weird regular stroke / like
Doggy
Half doggy paddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me for
So
sure.
from like third, fourth, and fifth grade, I was actually on the swim team.
Oh. Yeah.
Little chap.
Nope.
Hopefully, we can find a photo of that to plug in.
Yeah.
I don't think there's probably a photo out there of that.
What made you quit?
I have no other idea.
Fair enough.
I probably wasn't old enough. Like, so I raced motorcycles growing up. So everything else I did was my dad just training us for that. Like,
Yeah.
that was our whole deal growing up. We traveled the country doing it, and we were sponsored in it.
That's
like
cool.
it was.
Just like dirt bikes and stuff, or like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's sweet.
So it was. We moved to Kearney to 20 acres. My dad brought earth movers out, brought the whole 20 acres down, built
Nice.
a full size racetrack in the backyard. Like, and it was. That's what we were supposed to do. So it was like when we swam, it was because it was good training for it. Like we did boxing because it was good training for it, and it was like he picked stuff out to like for us to train all the time to race motorcycles.
Yeah, I didn't realize how like physically difficult that was. I have a friend that did that growing up. And I just assumed you're like on a bike that's powering itself. I was like, that couldn't be that hard. And he was explaining, he's like, no, you actually have to be in really good shape for this.
It is motocross. Professional motocross racers are probably some of the most fit athletes on the planet.
That's crazy. Yeah.
They could jump into doing like you can give them a road bike and say go out and do 200 miles and they'll jump. But they've figured out a different level of like regulating heart rate.
Mm.
That like you're operating at such a high level of adrenaline all the time. They're just like operating different.
Yeah.
That's why biking, like I don't feel like riding a bicycle is like hard. Like it's just
until you get on that hill.
yeah, which it's like, but just having momentum, things like that, and it was, I don't know, just different. Like in the styles of training that I'd done, weightlifting definitely put a lot more mass on my body than I'd ever had before, which definitely makes it to where it doesn't move like it used to.
Yeah.
But like I think the running. I don't know what's the order that they do it in a triathlon.
It's swim, bike, run.
Swim, bike, run.
Yeah.
At least the swimming's first. That's a plus.
That's probably so not as many people die.
Yeah.
Could you
Don't
imagine if it
drown.
was at the end?
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty glad. I'm pretty glad. Like, I think you can tell I've done a lot of homework on this. It was just something I said that I was going to like start training. I'm actually changing one of my gym memberships back up to what Wellway or used to be Norterra.
Yeah.
To start swimming again. But yes, swim, bike. I'd take the running last.
The toughest part, because Freddie that works with us, he's done I think 3 halves now, and he just did his first full. The hardest part, he always says, just the hours. You know, because it'd be like a Sunday, and he'd be like, "Well, I have to go bike for 9 hours today." You know,
Yeah,
that's just crazy
training-wise.
amount of training. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Full day.
yeah,
Which I don't mind like doing that kind. Like I enjoy those things.
yeah, yeah.
Like I enjoy pushing myself, which I think it is kind of a rarity of people liking that.
Right.
But it's like I feel like high level thinkers a lot of times do like they enjoy that. Like you look at David Goggins. I've read both of his books multiple times. I'll listen to his he has like all different YouTube motivational bullshit
Right.
things that I'll listen to, and like I throw that on, I can run 5 miles like that.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, that was like my half marathon. The reason I was so mad was it was like my body just was
Crapping out on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I was like, my head was there, and it was painful the whole entire time. But it was like most of the time I could just push through that.
I didn't realize how much like fuel, like how much food you need to be eating during those. Because when I went out for mine, I wasn't planning on ordering the IHOP. I had like a Cliff Bar and a 5 energy and 2 bottles of water. I was like, that ought to hold me over. And I was like, no, that's not going to hold me over.
Yeah. I think I definitely, I didn't train much at all. I was in Mexico like literally the week before or 2 weeks before. And the week before I actually did it, we had like 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
I was smoking cigars all week. I was drinking all week. So
Did you have like terrible shin splints by the end of it or anything?
Oh, I had shin splints first mile.
Yeah.
But it's like I've had shin splints like forever.
Yeah.
I've just learned to deal with them.
Just means you're running. Yeah.
I'm like, that's average. Like I can have like the worst shin splints and just keep moving.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop me.
See, now I'm scared of shin splints because that's with my calf thing. I was like, oh, this is probably just some bad shin splints radiating over to the side. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Haven't felt it over there before.
Yeah.
But it's whatever.
It's a side shin splint. Yeah.
Weird.
Which I did figure out like running shoes are a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I'd never gotten running shoes before I went and did that. And I was like, kind of helped a little bit with,
Yeah.
I did put a lot of faith in KT tape.
Yeah.
That really let me down.
I
Didn't work.
I was covered in KT
You
tape.
was.
I was like, so my hip fucks with me a lot, like my right hip, but it's like pain I can deal with.
Yeah.
And I was like, I bought those like fat KT deals. I was like, sometimes I get lower back pain. And I think it is what causes my hip problem. So I was like, I'll put this big patch on my lower back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put them all on my hip. And I'm like, I'm going to put them on my shins for my shins.
Yeah.
So I had fucking KT tape everywhere.
That ought to be the strategy for the try. Just,
Just tape up.
every transition, just more tape.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything.
Just full tape switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what, when I finished, I was like, yeah, the KT tape didn't help like I thought it was going to.
That's funny. Yeah, I always see people in the gym and they'll have like, 3 of them on their legs, their shoulders all done up. I'm like, is that actually,
I don't know.
maybe I don't know. Yeah.
I've done it before, like when like my hip was like first messed up.
Mhm.
I like put it on and like it would help. Like I'd do it to go to work.
Yeah.
That just kind of like hurt sitting there.
Yeah.
And it kind of helped. So I had a little faith in it.
Yeah.
So I got on Amazon, ordered a shit ton of it. And I was like, I'm going to look like I'm sponsored by KT tape out there.
Yeah.
But
I used it like playing softball. I played softball my whole life, and it was like every single weekend we were playing a tournament after tournament after tournament. And so my left shoulder is pretty bad. Like its ligaments are all loose and super fucked up. And I used it then, and I felt like it was like secure and like held it together, held it from like not
it's a
dislocating.
placebo effect.
And maybe it is, but I will take that over my shoulder falling out of its socket during the
That's
softball game.
when I had my knee surgeries. I used to put like, I think it was like off-brand KT tape on my knee, and like just having it on there, I was like, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
I'm totally fine with a good placebo effect.
Yeah. Hey, if it works,
As long as it works, I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Give me
That's
a sugar pill.
I was talking to someone about that the other day, and like all the like crazy fitness things that there are to do out there, like
Oh my God.
meditation, sauna, hot tub, all it's. I think any of that works if you really believe it's going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's usually some sort of benefit, but like just actually like believing it's going to work and doing it every single day, you'll get some sort of result from
Yeah.
it.
Oh, totally.
I do think there is something to like extreme hot and extreme cold.
Oh yeah, there definitely is. Yeah.
So it's like I will tell this to anyone, like I think cold in the morning and hot, like your body experiencing that far of like of a spread. Most of the time, like when it's really hot and then like it gets humid or whatever, and then temperature changes and everyone's like sick and got a problem. I'm like, I never like waver. I'm like, I didn't think it was really that bad. Like I didn't feel sick. Everyone's like, I got pressure in my head. I got a headache today. And I'm like, I think it changed. I could totally be wrong on this too. I'm not a doctor.
Hey, if you think it works,
Yeah.
then
It does. Like
keep doing it and it works.
everyone gets sick. I don't get sick. Like
yeah.
I'm like, I feel like if you're in that cold every morning and that hot, like pneumonia there, I don't feel like there's a chance of you getting it.
Yeah. I've done the cold showers for a long time, and I feel like the best thing that I get from those is just like the ability to deal with stress. Like, cause like anyone who's done it, like cold bath, cold shower, cold bath's even worse. You have to like learn to breathe through it,
Yeah.
and it almost like teaches your brain like, hey, when the stressful moment comes, just start breathing,
Yeah.
slow down,
I think that also takes on the fight between you and you.
Mhm.
Like I live my whole life that the only person I'm ever fighting against is myself. And I will tell you the biggest fight I have normally with myself is stepping into that cold shower.
Yeah. First thing in the morning.
And it's like when I go to Mexico, they'll have like the cold plunges and everything like that. I am 10 times easier to get into that.
Really?
I just like go in, I'm like, and you're like trying to catch your breath.
Yeah.
But you're just submerged in it.
Yeah.
Where the shower, I'm like, the knob's right there. You just turn one.
Or you can like
Right.
step this way, step that way, step that way.
Yeah. And it's like telling your head, like, you're going into this,
Mhm.
even though you don't want to. That's your only option.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And at 4:15 in the morning, it's almost easier because I feel like your head isn't like fully awake to where you like do it a lot quicker and then you're there.
Mhm.
But after you like conquered that, I feel like everything else doesn't seem hard.
Yeah. It's the whole like starting your day with a win thing.
Yeah, and it's just, but your head to you,
Mm-hmm.
you told yourself you were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I think people in anything find success winning against themselves. And I feel like that is just such a huge win against yourself. When everything in your body is telling you don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
your brain is telling you not to do it,
Right.
and you're going to overpower all of it and do it.
And who's going to know if you don't do it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is like putting myself in an uncomfortable situation. Like that's why I like, mine's more like adrenaline geared towards adrenaline, like free falling, like skydiving, like being in that uncomfortable position. Like I hear some people say that they don't like when you feel like your stomach is like up in your chest. That is like one of my favorite feelings because I'm ready. Obviously no one enjoys it in the moment, but like getting through that is like something that I get like excitement for. Like if I can make it through that, like just, I don't know. It's just something you guys can make weird faces all you want, but like I think everyone should be their body should be in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I got on a roller coaster the first time since I was a small child, and I'll never get on a roller coaster again in my life. So I figured out that was not near as fun as it was when I was like 8.
No, I love that shit.
I don't.
I don't.
The weirdest thing for me, I've been skydiving once,
Mhm.
and it was like, I think it was about 8 months after I got sober. In my brain, I still think my brain's jacked up because like normal things that would like excite normal human beings, I'm just kind of like that happened, you know what I mean? And I remember going skydiving, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good time. I'm gonna have fun. And about the time the plane started like getting some elevation, I was like, I don't think this is gonna excite me at all. I remember my guy, like the instructor that strapped to my back, he's like undoing the clip, and he's like, am I going to clip you in? Am I going to clip? I'm like, well, you're going to have to clip me in. That's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to throw me out, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like I'm falling out of the plane, or you kind of like jump, fall out. And, we're sitting there and we're like leveling out, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
It was super weird for me.
You're like, oh, now we're just pulling the chute.
Well, like I'd be interested to do it now because I'm like a few years removed from it.
Yeah.
Because back then it was like I got to the ground and I was like, okay, I have skydived.
I wonder if that threshold of dopamine
That's
and
it.
everything was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
so high that
I still feel like it's improved. Like, because like I said, it'll be 3 years in July. I still feel like it's improving,
Yeah.
to this
Yeah.
day. Because there's like little things that I'll be like, oh, I actually like felt something. That's
Right.
cool. Yeah.
Like I have emotion.
what's that? What was that?
I think that's part of the reason why I love doing like the 75 hard stuff and like, going and crutching. It's just because I'm like, it really gets my brain firing. I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
So before, this might be a 2-part question. Before the crutching the half marathon.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that is the hardest you've like pushed your mind? If it's not, what do you think is?
That's hard to say. I would say probably for like a doing something all at once.
Mhm.
Yes. You know what I mean? Cause like I've done 75 hard quite a few times. During 75 hard, it's more of just like the monotony of it.
Yeah.
It's not like physically painful. That one was really interesting though. Cause like I've gone on hikes that were like 20 plus miles and whatnot.
Mhm.
Those are like difficult, but you're not like in pain. You might be out of breath because you're up at altitude. That one, it was very different from anything I've experienced because I don't think I was ever out of breath the entire thing, because you're moving 2 miles an hour the whole time. It was more so I just like physically was in pain for 7 hours.
Right.
I mean, just like hurt.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I would say that was probably like the most pain I've pushed myself through.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the hardest thing I've done because like again, I was never at that point. Like when you're running and you're like, oh, I got to stop, my legs are burning. It was never like that. It was just like I'm just physically hurting.
Right.
You know what I mean? It feels like someone's stabbing me in the armpits over and over. So I don't know. It was different. It was interesting. Yeah.
What people that have like very driven minds, like Ricky's the same way. I am interested. What do you think the hardest part of 75 hard was for you?
Stopping it, to be
Really?
honest. Yeah. Because I did 75 hard. I started it December 27th of 2020 was the first time I ever did it. I did 75 hard, went straight into phase 1, took my 30 days off, and then I started phase 2, which is just supposed to be, 75 hard again for 30 days. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do 75 hard again. Then I finished that, and I took, I think, 1 day off, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do 75 hard again after that. And then again, I took like a couple days off, and I was like, all right, I'm going to keep doing 75 hard. And like, I got to the point, like, there's a lot, like, it's something, I don't know, I almost think like everyone should do that at some point in their life, just because it does. It's physically tough, and it really teaches you how to like use your time correctly, so you're not out there doing your second workout at 3 a.m. or something. But for me, it was stopping it, because I had gotten, like, again, it's kind of like that addictive personality. It's like, all right, I'm seeing progress in my life. I better keep doing this forever. And eventually I hit the point where I was like, I'm just like wearing my body down to nothing. You know what I mean? Because every single time my diet was getting stricter and stricter and stricter, and the workouts were getting harder and harder and harder. And it hit this point where it was almost like hindering me in my personal life, because all I was doing was 75 hard stuff. You know what I mean? Which, I don't know, you could look at it, could be a good or a bad thing. But I think that was literally the hardest part, was just being like, hey, dude, we're going to stop doing this. We're going to keep like most of the good habits, but it's okay to have, some food with you guys tonight that wasn't weighed, that type of thing. Like,
Right.
it was really difficult for me, just because, again, it was like I was fresh off drugs. That was like the first time I was like seeing really good progress in my life. It was really difficult for me to be like, okay, I can keep making progress without doing this. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, maybe I don't need to do 75 hard forever. It's something I would definitely do it again. But it's like, hey, maybe just having something hard that I'm doing once or twice a month, kind of, it brings you back to that headspace a little bit. And I hit that point where I was like, I maybe don't need to do this forever.
When you do have an addictive personality and you get in that groove of doing what you feel is like the right habit, the good habit, stuff like that, it is really hard to not do it.
Right.
And you think that, at least in my head, I go through the thought of like, if I don't do it, it totally destroys everything. And that's not the case.
Right.
Ricky lives his life on 75.
Yeah.
I definitely don't.
Well, but you've even said yourself, like, 75 hard was not difficult for you. Like, you don't drink. You already drink like a gallon of water a day. You read your book regularly. So it's like,
You work out every day.
yeah.
So the hardest part for me, for sure, was we were almost done building the Liberty Gym. Because I think I've only actually finished it once. I can't remember what happened the first time.
Did you forget to take a picture or something?
No, that doesn't matter. It was literally like 2 or 3 in the morning, and we had been building equipment the whole day. And I went back to our neighborhood, and I was like, I got to do my 45-minute outside walk. I was just walking outside. It wasn't like a crazy outdoor workout or anything, but I was falling asleep as I was walking. And I was worried that if like I walked around a park, I was just going to fall over asleep. So I was like walking just up and down our street and doing push-ups and stuff just so that I wasn't like falling over. But at one point I was like just taking a step, and I started veering off, and I was like, oh shit, I'm falling asleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. The hard part about it is just prioritizing those workouts and managing your time well so that you don't have those situations.
Yeah. Well, now that's the point that I think for me, where I was like, okay, this is like, I need to stop. This is when we opened up the Ward Parkway store back in August. Because when we opened the store, it was me, and I had my assistant manager at the time, and I literally just opened and closed the store every single day for like, I think maybe like the first 75 days or something like that, or first 90 days. So I'm in there from 9 to 9. I'd work out before I went in, and then I'd have a walk to do when I got home. And I was cooking all my own food, because one of my rules in 75 hard was that I had like cook all of my own meals.
Yeah.
I couldn't like go out and eat something. I had to cook all my own food. I had to weigh it all, that type of thing. So like the amount of time that I was spending in, there's probably someone's gonna say, oh, there's a way you could have done it. But I was like, with all of that going on, I was like, you know what? My focus is trying to be really good at S2 right now. It's not trying to finish 75 hard. It's like I've proven to myself
For the 10th time.
Yeah, right. And it's like, it's a tool. There's probably going to be a point in my life where I'm like slacking off, and I'm like, okay, I need to start this up again. But yeah, it's eventually like, this is literally just hindering me from sleeping more than 4 hours every single night, which is probably not good when you're trying to be, on point every single day.
Which I think 75 hard for what it was originally built for and what it's turned into is two different kind of deals. Where I think when it was originally started, it is for people to find a discipline that they don't have.
Sure.
I don't feel like either one of you two are people that really struggle with discipline, probably. Like, you can already tell that, like, people that work out all the time, that eat healthy, it's not like they have to tell people that they work out or eat healthy. You can just tell. And it's like getting some of those habits. That reading every day is a great habit. That, like, if I was to do 75 hard, that would be a pretty easy point for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's some people that have drinking problems. Like, I drink on the podcast, and then if I'm at social deals on the weekend, sometimes I don't even do something on the weekend, so I don't drink. So it's like, I don't feel like I have a problem with that I need the discipline on. I go to the gym. It's like, my discipline's definitely on the eating side, which I'm working on.
I was just thinking about bringing up, you had a Jell-O shot today.
That is true.
This afternoon.
Podcast day. Lauren also had one. I'm going to throw her under the bus with me. No. Somebody brought a whole bunch of Jell-O shots by the office, so we were all
gotta do one.
Yeah, we all took one.
It's the polite thing to do.
But it's like, I think that there's some people that really struggle with that discipline inside their head. And I think 75 is phenomenal for those people that it's like, I feel like I've never really struggled with discipline. I have struggled with where I place my time, that I have an addictive personality. Like when I started a company, I jump ship on everything else. And that's like right now in my life, I'm really working on navigating, like taking care of myself, my personal relationship with my fiance, and a company. Like those are the people I'm impressed with in the business world that have found success, is when they balance all those things together. Because you're going to find a lot of great fucking business dudes out there that are multimillionaires that every other part of their life is broken.
Yeah.
That they don't have any friends. Their relationship with their significant other is terrible. Their relationship with their kids is terrible. They don't take care of their body, like all these other things. You might find people that are in great shape out there that have no personal relationship and they can't figure out business at all. To where it's like people do struggle a lot with, like, on the addictive personality side, and I'm the guilty one of it. That's like you see this and it's like, this is what I want. And then it's like you want this more than you want all this. So then as you go full speed, then it's like these all drop down.
It's like you have a laser beam, but you can only point it at one thing at a time.
Exactly.
Well, now for me, it was like I had always been very disciplined with my fitness, you know, but again, it was almost like not even discipline. It's just how I've lived my life since I was
just,
like,
it's a habit.
since I was like 9.
Which there's very few people that are like that.
Right. Well, and that's where, like, me doing 75 hard, I learned, I was like, oh, I'm actually not disciplined at all. You know what I mean? Because, like, there's a big difference between, like, being focused on something and being like, I'm going to be focused on this every single day from the moment I wake up until I go to sleep for the next 75 days. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I know a ton of people that can do 75 hard for like 34 days. You know what I mean? But that's where people fall off. It's like that 30 to 50 range where you're starting to be like, oh, why did I even do this?
They start having to make some social sacrifices.
Yeah. See, that part for me, I love. Because I'm like that weird guy that, like, you know, I don't know. Like, I drank at Summer Smash over the weekend. I had a good time, but, like, I only really like drinking like twice a year. Yeah. So I'm always that weird guy that's like, oh, I'm going to have water. And I loved being on 75 hard because then I had like an exact reason to point to. I'm like, I cannot drink. No one can give me any pressure to do so because I'm on this program. You know, that was like my favorite part about it.
Yeah. And that's where, like, I look at somebody that's in great shape, that's maybe that you already have the physical appearance. Like, what does the difference in your life look like 5 years from now if you're weighing your chicken today and you're a few pounds off? Like, right. And that's where I look at, like, the big picture of it, of what's sustainable to always live that way. Like, I don't do any sort of fad dieting. Like, I don't do keto. I don't do any of that stuff. Like, everything I do is something that I can live that way all the time. Like, that's just the way I run my life. I'm not saying it's correct. It could totally be the wrong way. Yeah. But I like having that full circle, that I am very disciplined in a work environment. Yeah. Like, I am disciplined in my routines, things of that nature, but it's also like I eat well. Well, I'm eating well. Like, I got somebody that does all my macros now, sends my meals to me. Like, I have my meals during the day, but then it's like he goes, here's your flex for dinner. Yeah. He goes, just eat something that's decent. Yeah. Because I told him, I was like, my fiance cooks and stuff. Like, I'm not veering off of that. Like, I'm not telling her, like, hey, yeah, cook your own dinner. I'm going to eat eggs. Yeah. Like, I've been on a diet that was it. Yeah. He's like, you need to eat eggs and a piece of toast. And I did that for a while. I'm like, this kind of blows. Like, when I have a bunch of friends over and I'm eating eggs and toast, they're like,
I will say there's something that does for your confidence, though, when you do say, I'm good, I brought food. Yeah. Because I used to do that when I was, like, actually prepping for shows and stuff. Like, it just feels a certain type of way. Not like I'm better than you type way. A little bit. But just a little bit. But also, like, just the confidence of, like, I don't care about the social peer pressure. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. Yeah. Yeah. Not every day. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, Lauren, don't cook for me. I have my oven baked chicken here. But doing something like that for a prolonged period of time, like if it is 75 hard, that could totally change somebody's life if they don't have that discipline already.
That was something that I think changed my life before I even realized it had. Was, like I said, I was 12 years old, counting macros. So I was bringing my little baggies of chicken and my little baggies of tuna to lunch every single day at school. And, like, I had to get over that, like, oh, this is something weird people do at a very, very young age. So it's kind of weird. I've never struggled with that. You know what I mean? And it's almost like until I was working in stores and writing people's diets on a daily basis, I didn't realize, I'm like, oh, that's a thing. I forgot about that. Like, it's actually super weird when you're like the guy bringing his chicken to work the first time. You know what I mean? Because like I'm like, well, where I work, everyone just brings their chicken to work. You know what I mean?
It's perfectly normal.
Right.
That's true. Which, I mean, to each their own on it. My deal is like, we were talking about Caleb does all my food. I told him, I'm like, bro, if these meals aren't good, then I'm going to something else. I'm like,
yeah,
I really don't care what the food costs. I want to eat something that I enjoy eating. And the meals are great. So it's like, it's worked out wonderful.
Yeah.
That like I have great meals to eat during the day. He's like, you just need to hit your protein count. And he's like, and then flex your dinner. And I mean, I've seen huge results from it.
Yeah.
Which I knew dieting was an issue for me. And that's just being self-aware, but it's also, I wasn't focusing time on that. Like you can ask them when I ate, like 9 out of 10 times I'm eating just out of like my body is shutting down. I need food.
Yeah.
And it's what's the fastest thing I can get.
Yeah.
Like if we're driving somewhere, like what is something that's close to an exit that we can hit? How fast can they have it? I can be back on the road, eating in the truck before our next meeting, on to the next deal. Like it was just it's a terrible way to be.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing too, especially I'm sure if you're hanging out with clients, that type of thing, like you can't be the guy that's eating his chicken because you're gonna be like, dude, who are you? You know,
which like it's just being a little bit more proactive. Like the meals at the office, my deal now is like I just try to set all my stuff so I cross the office at some point. But then it's also like I have beef sticks with me and things like that I can make it through a meeting to get back to the office, and just being a little bit more disciplined on that side. That I wasn't thinking about it. Now I'm just thinking about it a little bit more, and I can be like, cautious of it.
I think that's something a lot of people miss out on in their fitness journey is just like plan ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
If my meals are in the fridge at the office, it's simpler for me.
Yeah.
It's actually simplified my workday and made me more efficient at work because I've done that.
Well, and like you said, you're going for the fastest thing. That becomes the fastest thing. It's already there. Yeah.
I don't even think about it when everyone's like, yeah, we're doing this for lunch or whatever. I'm like, I need this to handle. I'm like, this takes 3 minutes to microwave and I'll be eating and I'll be done in like, my lunch is 10 minutes. I'm good to roll like on to the next thing.
Yeah. Are you a pretty fast eater?
Yeah.
I've always been like that. I can eat a meal in like 2 minutes.
Prison style. That's how
brother
I grew up. We didn't have a lot of time. It was eat, get rolling.
You would think like the way I eat, you would think I was starved growing up or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people give you like weird looks when you like eat like the beef liver and like the raw beef liver and
I
got
I don't really know. I don't know. I did that for like, I don't do that anymore. I did that for like 6 months because it was like kind of like a crazy trend on the internet.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll try this. Let's see what benefit, because you read up on it. You're like, oh, there's a lot of vitamins and that stuff. And the first couple of days I did it, I would like, I'd go pee 30 minutes later. My pee was bright yellow. So I'm like, okay, there's like B vitamins here. This is legit. But then after about 6 months of, cutting up that beef liver every single morning, I was like, I don't feel any different than I did when I was just taking a multivitamin every day. So I went back to the multivitamin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Yeah. I will say the liver first thing in the morning, it's almost that same effect you're talking about with a cold shower. Where it's like, I told myself I'm going to eat this. It's really easy to stick to your diet when you've ate, first thing in the morning.
I'll say the same thing with drinking eggs. Like
that's nasty. I don't think I can do that.
That's where he draws the line.
I've always been an egg drinker, and like when we were in college, I was crazy disciplined for a long time on my food in college, and like I ate chicken and rice every day. I drink 12 eggs every day, and Dalton that works at Moss Marketing Group, he was my roommate, and like we worked out together all the time, and that's what we lived for.
Yeah, like Rocky style.
Yeah. But it was like it got to where I'm like, there's no faster way to get protein in, and everyone's like, you're gonna get salmonella. I'm like, it's on the shell. Like we actually researched it. So if you just clean all your eggs,
good to go,
good to roll. And I'm like, crack 4 eggs in a cup and chug it real fast. Like you just feel better about whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Like in your head, you're like, bro, I'm drinking fucking eggs. I'm like Arnold out.
Every single time you're like, I'm in a movie.
Yeah. I am Arnold right now. So then you would just like, you worked out harder. You're like,
yeah.
Then when you are one to eat that shitty food, you're like, I already drink my eggs today, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think the texture on that one would get me.
I don't think I could do that.
I'm sure I probably could, but I wouldn't. That's not something I'd be like, oh, I'm looking forward to my eggs this morning.
I wouldn't say I looked forward to it, but it's not as bad as you'd think.
I love them
I
scrambled.
have tried like
They're a lot better
there's a company that makes like flavored egg whites, like
Really?
liquid egg whites,
Yeah.
and I've tried that. Like there's like a vanilla flavor.
They're not the same.
Those are good, but I don't think I could get past like the gulp or the egg yolk.
So at one point, the guy that was doing all my food and everything, he's like, you need to eat, like the half cartons, the like short cartons. He goes, buy them at like Sam's Club or Costco. And he's like, you need to make sure you're cooking those, a full one of those each day and eat all those every day. I was like, what if I just drink half of them in the morning, drink half of it at night? He's like, I haven't had anybody ask me. He's like, let me do some research on it. He's like, yeah, you're definitely going to get the same shit out of it. I'm like, that's a lot less time. I don't have to cook them. And I'm like,
it's way easier to consume them.
Yeah. You don't even feel full at like,
yeah.
That's my deal is like, if you try eating 12 eggs in a day, you probably have.
I do it every day.
Yeah, you do. That's a lot.
6 in the morning, 6 at night.
I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to look at an egg. Like, because I cooked eggs for a long time and ate eggs for a long time. Scrambled eggs almost make me want to vomit.
Yeah.
Like, just looking at them.
Biggest thing I did a month and a half ago, I switched over. I'm actually like getting farm fresh eggs. It's crazy the difference. Like you crack them and the shell's like actually hard. You have to like beat on it for a while.
So I do drink the
tastes so
brown
different.
eggs.
Yeah, yeah.
The brown eggs do taste better than the white eggs.
Do you notice a taste difference when you're just drinking them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah.
The consistency is different.
Yeah. The farm fresh, isn't that when the yolk is like bright orange?
Yeah, most of the time. They're all kind of different colors though.
Okay.
Like you can tell that it was just like actually a bunch of chickens
Yeah.
on the farm. You know what I mean? Like they're not like the perfectly exact same.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of the eggs are a little bigger, some are a little bit smaller.
So if you were to tell one person out there, or you're to talk to a group of people on like what the most valuable lesson is that you've learned at S2 that you could give out to everyone, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
I know. That's why I save them for the end. I like to come out swinging.
I like honestly, probably like the biggest thing I could say would be like care about your people. That was one thing. To reel it back a little bit, like the morning I got, basically I didn't wake up for work. It was like 6 hours after I was supposed to be there. One of the girls who worked for the time was knocking on the doors the morning I got caught doing drugs and whatnot. Jeff and Kyle were in my apartment maybe an hour later, after they discovered me in the state that I was like, 'cause my apartment looked nasty. It looked like I was a hoarder, it was disgusting. And I sat there and Jeff and Kyle like left what they were doing that day, came and saw me, talked to me, like made, they didn't fire me. I don't know how they didn't fire me. And because of that, I'm like, if Jeff and Kyle need anything ever, I will make sure that I get that done right now. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. Like it's, I think a lot of, business owners and, people that are in leadership positions say they care about like, the people under them and whatnot. But from like Jeff, Kyle, even Freddie, who's been my district manager for a while, like those dudes actually care. Like they really legitimately care. You know what I mean? So that's something. I'm not in that position. I've got obviously employees at my store, but it's not like I actually own the business yet. That's something I'm going to try to keep top of mind when I actually do own the business one day is, I need to actually care about these people, which it's a lot easier when you're in that environment, when you have people caring for you, it's a lot easier to care for others. So, I would say that's probably, I might think of something else later, but as of right now, I'd say that's the biggest thing.
That's huge, man.
Yeah.
It's really huge.
Which I think that's important in anything. I think that just goes down to being a good human being.
Mm-hmm.
Like just being a good person and caring about other people. And you can do that at any level in a company. And most people think it just has to be a leader.
Right.
That there's still people that are under you that look up to where you're at. And it's, you become that person. And I was that person for people in a car business. I wasn't the top of the totem pole. Mm-hmm. But it's still like they had a respect level for me because I did care about them.
Right.
I wanted the best for them. And I think when you do care about other people, your success will come tenfold behind it. Mm-hmm. And that's you can see that in S2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's why they've built the crew that they have. That's not by mistake.
I think it's what you said too, just like actually being a good person. You know what I mean? Like we're like actually trying to help people, which is crazy because there's so many businesses that say that, but it's like I said, I've been there for almost 6 years now. It's like no one's ever been like, all right, dude, now that you're in, we're gonna tell you we don't actually, it's like, oh no, we actually still care. We actually still care. We actually want to do the best we can for them. And it's I really think if you do that and you do a decent job of it, it's gonna be really hard to not grow or not get where you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate you guys coming, have me out here. Dinner was delicious. It was very, very good.
Shout out, man.
I enjoyed the carnitas. Yeah. Mango salsa was on point.
We very much appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah.
Love getting all the insights. And I think you're going to continue to kill it in everything that you do.
Yeah. I appreciate it a ton.
That mindset takes you a long ways.
For sure.
And that's a rarity in people in general. So
yeah, cool. I appreciate that. excited to see you guys keep growing too. I keep seeing the podcast episodes dropping on Instagram. I love the reels.
We're trying to make it there. Ricky, Lauren, any final thoughts?
Just appreciate you being on here, man.
Yeah, thank
you
you
guys. Appreciate it.
I think I'm going to in the future get rid of the sleeves like Lauren because it's a little warm out here.
Yeah,
it is.
So,
funny enough, I wore this shirt because I was like, oh, what do they wear on this podcast? And I saw you had some sort of shirt. I was like, I better get the button up short sleeve.
Button up short sleeves, name of the game. So that is the M3 podcast. Thank you for joining. Like, subscribe. I always forget all of this shit at the end of it. So Ricky's going to be editing back. What the fuck is that? But peace out. That's it.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.